Regional Magic Sub-Regional meeting to order. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Adam DeShano. I'm the Director of Planning and Community Development for the town of Sudbury. And we're just going to open up the meeting today with some introductions, and maybe we'll go just down through a list here. So we'll just go alphabetically. So Acton, who's here from the town of Acton today? Any representatives from Acton? No? Okay. And then what about Bedford? Is Bedford next? Hold on a second. Yep, Bedford.
Hi, Margot Fleischman here, select board member from Bedford, and we have several other people from Bedford.
Hi, I'm Amy Lloyd. I'm also from Bedford, planning board member.
Sandra Hackman, Council on Aging, Board and Transportation Committee, and MAPC Secretary.
Great. Thank you, guys. All right, and then Town of Bolton.
Hi, Erica Uriarty, Town Planner.
Hi, Erica. What about from Boxborough?
Oh, hi, Cindy Marquis just joined.
Hi, Cindy. And did I see Rita Grossman, maybe? Is she out there too? Maybe she's just here as a...
Yes, I had to unmute. Yeah, Rita Grossman, volunteer representative from Boxborough to Magic.
Great. Thanks, Rita. And then Carlisle.
Hi, it's Madeline Blake from the Planning Board.
Hi, Madeline.
Hi, just to let you know, Adam, I have to scoot out a little early, so I'll probably miss the community exchange at the end. Apologies for that.
Okay. All right. Thanks for the heads up. And then Town of Concord. Anyone from Concord?
I think I saw Kate Reed from Carlisle too.
Oh, I'm sorry. Someone else from Carlisle? Oh, yes. Yep.
Hi, Kate Reed from Carlisle.
Okay.
I'm selectman.
Great. Thanks, Kate. And then Concord one more time.
Peter Lowett, Concord resident.
Hi, Peter. How are you?
And I'm not from the town of Concord, but Kelsey Magnuson from Emerson Hospital.
Great. Thanks, Kelsey.
Another Concord resident, Keith Bergman.
Hello, Keith. And then what about Hudson? I didn't see Christina, but I didn't know if anybody else might be here. Okay. And then Lexington.
Oops. Hi, Jill Hay, Select Board, and we also have, I want to introduce everyone. We have our new Economic Development Director who is joining us today. Sandhya, do you want to introduce yourself?
Briefly, hi Jill, and hi everyone. I'm Sandhya. So I just joined the town this is my third week with the town to participate in this discussion, and looking forward to working with you all of you. Thanks, Jill.
And I think
Great, welcome. Thank you for participating.
Did I see Charles also? Are you here? I think there may be
Yeah, Charles Hornig, Planning Board, although I'll be leaving soon to go to the MAPC thing.
All right, thanks, Team Lexington. What about Lincoln? No one from Lincoln, okay. And Littleton?
Hi there, I'm here.
John Borowski, was that you?
Yeah, you got it.
Yep, hi, welcome. Thanks for checking in. And who's next? Maynard, Town of Maynard.
Hi, Katie Young. I'm the Assistant Town Planner and Conservation Agent.
Hi, Katie. Bill did say you'd be sitting in today. Thanks for coming.
Bill's a little busy, so unfortunately he wasn't able to make it.
No, that's great. Thanks for representing.
No problem.
And then Town of Stowe. Okay. And then there are some other Sudbury folks here, if you'd like to introduce yourselves now.
Pat Brown, Select Board.
Thanks, Pat. Thanks, Janie. And then other community partners who are here, other organizations.
Allison Field-Juma from ORS.
Hi, Allison.
Scott
Karen
Sadek.
Frecker. Oh, sorry, Scott. Karen
Uh,
Frecker
Scott.
from Representative Kate Hogan's office.
Thanks. Great to have you.
And Scott Sudeikis, Crosstown Connect.
And Jessica
Scott.
Strunken spying from Devon's.
Welcome back, I guess. Everyone comes full circle. All right, I think that's everybody on our list, but if there's anybody that I missed, please feel free to just chime in quickly. Okay, hearing no one, it sounds like we've covered all the introductions. So Lizzie, I'm gonna turn it back over to you. It looks like for our standard announcements that we do.
Thanks, Adam. And this announcement is anything but standard because we have, for the very first time that I know of in Magic's history, a virtual legislative breakfast planned for June 18th at 9 a.m. So mark your calendars. The MAPC team is doing outreach right now to all of the legislators in the Magic subregion to see who can attend. We're really excited. It's obviously such an important time to talk with our elected officials about what's happening and to get a chance to hear from them and ask them questions. So we hope that you all can attend. The invite link went out in today's Magic newsletter. So you can click there to register for that Zoom event. Again, that's June 18th at 9 a.m. And that's really the only announcement that I have since Magic takes a break in July and August. So, so you are aware, for our agenda today, we have majority of the time dedicated to our work planning process, as well as the nominating committee for the next fiscal year. And then we'll have our community exchange at the end. We put it at the end just so that if folks want to stick around longer to chat, you're welcome to. So that is all from me right now. So I'll hand it back to Adam to talk about work planning. And as we do discuss it, I sent out a draft of the work plan to everyone in an email, everyone who registered prior to noon today, so that you can read it. But I will drop another link in our chat for folks to follow along with the work plan draft. So just a moment on that.
All right, great. Thanks, Lizzie. So hopefully, if you don't, maybe let's see, how do we want to do this? Maybe we'll start off. I'm just wondering if people would find it easier if it was up on the screen or if they just want to review it from home, but I can jump in and maybe Lizzie can pull it up periodically if we need it to share it, or I can do it. So typically, each year the Magic officers get together with the sub-regional coordinator and form our work plan outline for the next year. And as some of you may recall, Lizzie did a poll at our last meeting and continued to receive feedback, leading up to this meeting about some larger projects that we wanted to work on. So maybe I'll just go through those. So maybe we do want to share. Lizzie, do you want to share, or do you want me to do it from here?
I can share my screen.
Okay, that'd be great.
And I know we already had some comments that folks wanted to bring up on the work plan, so just a heads up, so we'll have a good discussion.
And so that this is the perfect time to do that. We do, we try to come up with some ideas to give the group a baseline, but this would be a great meeting to make those comments known, and to we can always revise it, and then hopefully we can vote it out today. All right, great there. So now we can see, if you just scroll down a little. So the big one we kind of talked about, obviously we're in this COVID pandemic situation, and so Margot, Christina, and Lizzie and I were discussing how we could really tie that into fiscal year 2021, because not only are we going through it now, but I think we're going to see a lot of work coming out On the back end of this, municipalities related to small businesses and village centers, and those are some topics that we kind of already pegged to kind of look at. I think we did that actually when we were looking at the FY20 work plan. So we thought now would be kind of a great time to sort of really focus on this. So the proposal is to allocate $21,500 of the funding that we have towards a variety of programs, but activities, but primarily centered around support in person and also virtual special events to kind of help spread the information, but also to look to synthesize it. I don't know about, well, I'm sure all of you have been seeing a variety of emails coming from town councils to partnership organizations, even PPE vendors. And so hopefully we can sort of distill some of that and share best practices as part of this potential regional work initiative. So we looked at, maybe having MAPC staff presenting some relevant topics on each phase of reopening, and presenting options to bring in or having outside organizations come in and talk about subject matter. So we're all kind of a little bit different, but we're all kind of the same. So how can we kind of help solve some of the issues that we're all working through? And then as you can see on the screen, that sort of the second piece of this was, the funding would be also used to augment planning and economic development staff's work on issues that each town's facing. So, such as troubleshooting COVID-19 reopening issues, helping start emergency rental assistance programs, which I know a few communities have already done. We're doing that in Sudbury right now, and I think Acton is another town that's already looking at this. Having a role of town government roundtable. So that's kind of the first item. Maybe I'll just go through quickly the last few, because that was sort of the big one, and then we can sort of turn it over to comments or questions to the rest of the group here that's participating. One of the things that I always think is important in Magic and the sort of couple of our recurring topics as housing and transportation, which are topics that transcend municipal borders. So the proposal is to allocate about $10,000 of our funding for next year, and we can kind of tie in some of the age-friendly initiative components that we've been working on. So look at identifying needs for seniors as a result of the COVID-19 situation, including more supportive housing models, narrowing housing and transportation strategies. How can we look at that? And then potential focus groups or pilot programs for housing affordability, diversity, and availability. And then we have a couple of smaller items, but only smaller really in terms of the monetary amount that we'll be allocating towards them. We wanted to kind of, sorry, I didn't know if that was me or, but
I think that was me.
Gotcha. I thought I hit a button, my mistake. So then the other, climate change and climate resiliency is something that Magic's been working on for the last few years. So we wanted to try to keep some momentum on that. So one of the third regional projects we talked about was, looking at doing something was regarding net zero planning. So maybe doing a part 2 of the net zero planning webinar. We had that webinar, I believe the first one was last month, and Lizzie, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we had 50 or 60 attendees on that call. So there was a lot of interest in that. So we thought, we could look at doing something else around that. But then with everything that's been going on with COVID and everybody working from home and just kind of being stressed, we wanted to try to throw in something a little more fun that we may or may not be able to happen later this year. So we're going to try to examine maybe like a bike to farm gathering, where we could maybe, ride to a rail trail and look at some of these, farm shares and things that we could maybe put together an afternoon around agritourism, a little more of an active event. So we'll keep our fingers crossed on that. But an outside activity, which could maybe, be on the leading edge of, group gathering. So we're hopeful for that. And then of course the old standby, which is always very popular. And as Lizzie mentioned, the FY21 is going to come up in another couple weeks here. We're doing the legislative breakfast. Typically we do that in sort of, I guess what I would call the early spring or mid-spring. This year it's sort of early summer, but we'll be looking at doing the legislative breakfast in April of 2021. So those are kind of the 5 items that that the officers and Lizzie helped pull together. And I guess Lizzie, maybe we'll turn it back out to the group to see what kind of different comments or questions people have, or if they'd like to see some of these items adjusted, or if there's new topics that maybe we can completely miss the boat on.
That sounds good. And I'd also ask if Margot had anything to add as another member of that meeting discussion.
I had a thought that might be it's kind of a cross-cutting issue. And that would be to, in light of current events and heightened awareness, of seeing how we can add diversity, equity, and inclusion into some of these things. Maybe that's a conversation that could happen and then figure out where it goes, probably in lots of them. But to some, I know that MAPC has a policy that relates to this, and so I don't know how all that meshes together, but I'd like to put that out there for discussion.
And I feel like near the end of the last meeting, when we were doing, it was sort of the active poll, I feel like that came up. It could have maybe been with something else, but that's a good point, Allison. And maybe it's something that, if it doesn't end up being its own standalone item, maybe it's something we can kind of call out, that can transcend each one of these topics, to sort of think about that throughout. But if anybody has any thoughts or comments else on Allison's.
I think you guys did a great job translating a very long list of topics into some real actionable items. So thank you.
Great. Thanks, Jill. We can't take, all the credit. Allison, or excuse me, Lizzie did a great job sort of really getting it down, I guess, into say the ground meat, and then we sort of worked to cook it up a little bit there. So.
Yeah, thank you. I think to respond to Allison's idea, there are a lot of ways we could integrate diversity, racial equity, and inclusion into a lot of the topics we've chosen. I think we're seeing with COVID that the impact is being borne disproportionately by communities of color. And so I think that's one thing that we could add to this first element is, particularly how are we supporting the communities of color in Magic might be more affected by the COVID pandemic. So that's a line item I could easily add to part A or part B. I think with climate change, there's a lot of things that we learned on the webinar even about how this intersects with racial equity and how some of the climate strategies we can implement can be have a specific focus on equity and make sure we're reaching out to a lot of diverse communities in that. And then I think we can add it to a topic of interest because there's so many ways that APC can support communities in thinking about, what is the diversity of their municipal staff and how does that compare to the diversity of the population living within the town? How do we make spaces more inclusive from a community engagement perspective, which I know Yolanda, who's on the call, does a lot of thinking about. And then a last thought, we had a staff-wide racial equity training at MAPC, and we'd be more than happy to help other towns set up racial equity trainings. So there's a lot of different ways that could be integrated. And I know Sandra has a hand up, so I would like to hear from Sandra as well.
Thanks. Yeah, so that sounds great. I love the idea of the racial equity training. Thanks, Lizzie. So I was just going to add that given the outsized impact also on senior living centers, that could be added to the part on, it sort of opens the door to more, the housing discussion, but also in terms of responding to COVID-19, the first part of the work plan. What are we doing to prepare these places going forward? Because there's some thought that these pandemics are just going to keep happening, not only this one, but with the encroachment on where a lot of different, with loss of habitat and stuff, that a lot of animals are coming in greater contact with people. And so we're just going to keep getting a series of these. So really in general, what are we doing to, because this is just ridiculous the way this is played out in terms of the senior population.
I have a suggestion also, and I'm not sure where it fits in, but one thing with the COVID crisis that has been seemingly incredibly valuable is the access to green space, whether it's a small park or a trail or walking in a safe area. I think that needs to be included going forward, especially for planning, that there always be safe, accessible green space, particularly for senior housing, where it might need to be somewhat manipulated to handle walkers and wheelchairs. But I just want to put that out there. And accessible to everyone, and everyone should feel safe.
Hi, this is Margot.
Yes.
Lizzie.
Yes.
Was there somebody else who was waiting to speak? I don't want to jump my turn.
I don't see anyone. I can only see 4 people at a time though, so I might need Yolanda's help in the gallery view of just letting me know if there's anyone with a hand. Thank you. Go ahead.
So the another issue that has come up has been about streetscape and outdoor restaurants and patio space for people to be able to eat outside, and sort of seconding what was just said about green space, but also streetscapes, outdoor dining, and also bike ped infrastructure to support active transportation and also recreation. It seems as though that's something that is on people's mind about how to redesign our streets in light of these competing priorities or competing potential uses for some of the space to help support a more outdoor living to the greatest extent possible.
Yeah, these are good comments. And Lizzie, I wonder if some of these sub bullet points under this COVID work item could be combined together. Like, I think some of these ones that people are raising now are definitely, kind of more the standalone ones, but then maybe some of the other ones that we had earlier, maybe those could be, lumped together, like looking, I don't know, like municipal government changes, and then we group together like virtual town meeting support, charters, and like the town government roundtable. So just an idea, so we don't have like 20 sub bullets. But I think the ones that everyone's brought up here today should probably be stand on their own. But it definitely seems like we'll have a very full plate next year looking at post-COVID items. Other comments on the first work item about COVID, or any other proposed items? I saw some comments came through on the chat.
Looks like Amanda just unmuted herself.
Sorry. Hey, Amanda from Lexington. In terms of, if you scroll back up where it's the emergency rental assistance program, is there any way that we could actually add on to that small businesses or business rental assistance, just because that is the one consistent thing that they always have to pay? And if we can help offset the cost of their rental, they may be able to kind of pay more for their employees, etc. But
yeah, I think that makes sense. Look at both residential and commercial aspects of the rent. Yep, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
And I'll also add that we were thinking of this as a menu of planning support. So even if there's something that comes up that's not on this menu, I think we're definitely open to creating as many sort of mini projects as needed to support all of your towns in this. So this is a really helpful discussion for brainstorming, and I think we're open to ideas that may come up as the year progresses that we may not be able to foresee right now.
We have a hand, Pat. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask on the streetscape redesign and everything. Is that envisioned to be limited only to construction, or is that envisioned also to be available for maintenance? Because I know that for us, we have places where we don't have walkways and we need them. We also have walkways that we have that we can't maintain. And so is it possible for that to be not only just new construction, but maintenance also?
So that's something I feel like that we could look at. How can communities find resources to do that maintenance? Sort of examine that from the planning aspect side of things. And I'm wondering how we can tie that into the on the streetscape right down there. Perfect, Lizzie. Yeah.
Thank you.
Rita has a question, or
Yes, thank you. Yes, this is a COVID-related thing, and it has to do with warming temperatures, and oftentimes during the really hot days that there are cooling sanctuaries that many towns provide, particularly for seniors or people at risk who can come and be in a cool space during the day. And I think that will certainly be impacted by COVID, and in that I think we're going to be dealing with COVID throughout the next year and maybe even beyond. And again, at some point in the future with another pandemic, I think we need to look at that, because it's also anticipated that it's going to get warmer in the number of 90-degree days. And certainly Massachusetts is anticipated to go up significantly. So I'm not sure. I'll let you guys figure out where that goes. But I definitely think that with social distancing and providing safe respite during,
So I'm going to
access to cooling centers with social distancing issues.
So I'm going to jump in on that because I think it's a good idea. I'm wondering if we make sort of impact of COVID-19 on seniors, period. And then, because I'm thinking there's a lot of items that we could look at,
Probably
not just,
more.
this, and then because we have them down, we have a topic on safe and accessible to green space, but obviously this is one of the more, high-risk groups, and it will be, for the foreseeable future until something changes with COVID. So maybe that's, how do communities work at just addressing that overall, their senior population?
Mm-hmm.
Great. We have a question from Amy.
Hi. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of overlap, and I'm not really sure quite how we would go about this, but I've been looking at the it's now item 7, occupancy changes, how to rezone and repurpose with the changing future of work. The sad likelihood is that there are going to be a lot of empty businesses, and the whole nature of retail is, according to all those in the know, really going to change. And that means empty storefronts, which would potentially, if we have some creative thinking, could have a beneficial, not beneficial impact, but could be utilized for cooling spaces, or what's our streetscape look like. I just think that we need to be mindful of potential outside the box synergies, because using the resources that we have, we're all facing severely reduced budgets. We're going to have to do things unlike we've ever done them before. And one of the big barriers, my bias, of course, being planning, is some of the zoning that prevents certain uses and only allows very specific uses. And so how do we think outside the box, have some brainstorming sessions to propagate ideas, but then also how do we convince our fellow townspeople to make some zoning changes that may help us, but may not have ever been done before. So that's just something that's been on my mind lately. Thanks.
Allison has a hand up.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, I mean, there's been quite a bit of discussion in more urban areas about if there's going to be a lot of empty offices and we have still have a housing crisis, you know, how that can be repurposed. And I imagine occasionally zoning might step in the way of that happening. So that might be another area of creativity. And just that if property values do go down, that is a huge opportunity to obtain property that otherwise was unaffordable. On the other hand, the municipalities won't have much money to do that. But just, you know, to follow up on Amy's point is that there's all kinds of strange opportunities that may arise, and to think creatively about how those could be used in a way that we didn't expect before.
We'll have Cindy chime in.
Yeah, this is something that Boxborough's been having a lot of discussion about, because we've got a big chunk of suburban 1980s era office space that we've been working to figure out what we can do with all of this space. And you know, there's a lot of talk about repurposing and rezoning and how do we anticipate what that should look like, you know. And I think the whole COVID thing, you know, one of our select board members mentioned an opportunity that even though office space in general is now potentially becoming more available, you know, workplaces may want to repurpose these spaces for people that are working from home to at least have a space to come in and meet. And I guess, you know, our big challenge, and I'm sure a lot of you are facing this, is, you know, how do you get private developers to sort of help sort of repurpose some of these spaces? So I'd really be interested in hearing or you know, creating some sort of dialogue around, it doesn't necessarily have to be public-private partnerships, but how do you stimulate private development to help repurpose some of these buildings, you know, not make it all a municipal grant sort of situation, but to try and stimulate some private investment and for a common purpose of repurposing these buildings.
We have Jenny chiming in.
Yes, Jenny Dretler, Board of Selectmen, Sudbury. I am curious, you know, what opinions are, or what work could be done to help towns with their community centers during this time. We have now canceled our summer camp programming in our municipality, which is really distressing because it provides a great value at a really good price to our residents, and allowing them to go back to work. And that's not possible currently. You know, there are private camps who are able to run at a different price point, but, you know, what can be done to help municipalities in this kind of situation?
We have
just to confirm what I heard, because I had a little hard time hearing you, Janie. You said community centers?
Yes, community centers. In Sudbury, ours,
okay.
The senior center, our emergency shelter, it's our recreation center, which houses our camp. It houses our administrative school offices. So we have about 7 services under one roof.
Next, we'll have Kate chime in.
Hi, I live in Carlisle now, but I used to be on the planning board, and I used to be a West Concordian. And I, way back when, was on the West Concord Center Study Committee. And one of the things that we found there was the thing that made that West Concord Center so vibrant was the fact that in fact, it was mixed use. We had apartments over stores. It was a safe neighborhood because there was always somebody around. And it hasn't really changed much in nature over the years. It continues to be mixed. So I guess I'm just kind of trying to hop on and encourage you all to think about mixed use when you are looking at your zoning, because I think it's very healthy for town centers. Carlisle doesn't have that luxury, but you guys do. So do think out of the box, I guess. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, and that did come up as a topic of interest in the poll. I think it was kind of near the middle there, number 5. Amanda?
So Amanda from Lexington again. One item that we are going to see a lot of as people start to re-enter the, public spaces, whether it be downtowns or the trails or the public, parks and stuff like that, is mask litter and glove litter. And how are communities going about to actually combat that? Because we've seen at the grocery stores, people just discard their gloves on the ground, and it's the store owner that's responsible. But what happens when it's like on our main streets or within the parks, etc.? Who is actually responsible? Because normally you would have, people that go around and pick those things up, but with COVID, you don't really want the public picking them up, but you don't want it on the ground either. So something to kind of consider.
Jessica?
Yeah, for some strange reason, Devon's is a prime location for people to dump their trash. And we haven't really figured this out why this is the case, except that maybe there's just not a huge population here to keep an eye on it. But we've definitely seen it, to Amanda's point, we've seen an uptick in just bags of trash kind of thrown on the side of the road here, as well as people kind of overstuffing our recycling option at our local DPW. So we've kind of had to remind, and that serves of some of the towns that are on this call, we've had to remind folks about, like, don't overstuff the machinery. People are cleaning out their homes right now. Everybody's kind of purging stuff in their house. So I think Amanda brings up a good point that this is gonna be a growing problem.
I can add we did actually have sustainable waste management as a topic of interest. So we might be able to kind of wrap some of these interests together and potentially have a meeting dedicated to this, or how we want to work that topic in.
Any other comments on the COVID work plan item or on any of the other items? I think we had a lot of good additional thoughts, which is obviously why we bring it out to the group, right? I mean, there were definitely some things we overlooked, and some things here that we've been able to drill down on as a group that I think have added some good value to this particular item for sure, and some of the other items on the work plan as well. But we can always come back if something pops into someone's head, later on in the meeting, we can jump back to this. But I think we've got a pretty good plan here. It's like the COVID item is so big now. It's like some of these other items might get squeezed out next year, but I guess that's a good problem to have. Obviously there's tons of stuff to work on in general, and then when we all come together under the magic umbrella, it just kind of swells. So. All right, well, maybe we'll move on to the schedule, the second part. I mean, at the bottom of this, Lizzie, I think you had sort of the list of the topics that were generated from the poll at the last meeting in our discussion, correct?
Yeah, and I guess I just wanted to check to see if anyone else had comments on numbers 2, 3, or 4.
Sure.
Or 5.
Yep.
We talked a little bit about some of these topics under 2 as part of COVID, so I do think there's a lot of crossover there.
It's Rita Grossman. In terms of climate change, I just want to put in a plug for resiliency and conservation and the role that it plays in terms of capturing carbon, cleaning the air, water, and how that needs to be integrated in planning across the boards, including more developed areas and urban areas.
Amy's hand too.
I have a question simply about the draft meeting schedule. Are we ready for that? Sorry, I thought you were moving on to that.
We can if there are no further comments on the.
I misunderstood.
Oh, that's okay. No problem.
No, I was that's
Both.
funny. I was sort of leading into that, and then, yeah, no. I think maybe why don't we do that? Why don't we slide into the meeting schedule, and then if, before we go to vote on this, if somebody has a thought that's come up on some of the other items, we can jump back to that.
It's just sort of functionally, the schedule is how we always used to do it, but I don't think we're going to be able to hold meetings like we always did in terms of in person. So obviously we're going to Zoom as long as we have to Zoom, but even when we can convene, we're going to have larger spaces and be masked. That's my assumption. So I just wanted to know if there's been any thought or planning around how the meetings are going to change, if the venue is going to change, that sort of thing. It's not super important. I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I'm envisioning a lot of Zoom meetings. I mean, I'm open to feedback, but it seems like this has been working decently well for people to be able to make it and for us to have our discussions. So I think just about everything on this list can be done virtually, save maybe the bike ride, which I think we were counting on that being a socially distant activity. So I do think I'm very open, and I can defer to the chairs as well on changing the schedule if the schedule itself doesn't work. But I think all of this was written knowing that it might have to be done over Zoom. Yeah.
And I would agree with that. And Amy, I hadn't personally thought about given that much thought, but I think one of the things we should think about as we move forward is maybe polling the group on how we'd like it to be held. If Zoom's continuing to work, great. Or even if we go back and we are able to meet, in groups, but we have the ability to meet via Zoom, is this something we want to continue to do? Or shift to outdoor meetings or something, I don't know, but that we should definitely give that some more thought as things move forward.
Allison also has her hand up.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, actually just thinking a little bit more about that resiliency piece that Rita mentioned. I think almost all of our communities have done or are in the process of doing their municipal vulnerability planning process. And I'm just wondering whether it might be interesting to have a session where people are sharing what their community's top issues were and seeing if there are any that are in common that would benefit from shared work across town boundaries.
Allison, I think that's a great idea. Having facilitated about 5 or 6 of the MVPs, a lot of the ideas are very similar coming out of each town. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for synergy in discussing whether, it might even be cheaper solutions to be able to collaborate between towns who are thinking of doing some of the same things. So I think that would be a really interesting meeting topic to have where we could all share and then maybe brainstorm if there are ways to partner up on some of those key next steps.
So maybe just some quick highlights on the the meeting schedule. As Lizzie noted, we sort of take July and August off, and then reconvene in September with our our elections meeting, and then looking at the COVID topic, and then I think as Lizzie maybe she mentioned, maybe not, but we did try to look at a bike ride in the fall of 2019, but it kind of got washed out. It got cold too fast. So, but we'll try to look at that again this year. And then jumping into some of our other items, we've got the one in November, which is sort of our standard transportation discussion with the MPO. And then January 2021 is the NAPC Magic Legislative update. And then we've got some other, topics sort of mixed in that we talked about. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the legislative breakfast would be in April of next year. But pretty standard to kind of how we've laid things out in the past, but just with some new topics woven in. Oh, and then of course the Metro Common, you know, we'll have an update on that in March of 2021. So
yeah, and then I think just to add, since we were thinking of the COVID-19 sort of menu of options as being able to support individual towns or groups of towns with whatever you need, it's not necessarily reflected on this meeting schedule, since that would be done sort of outside of Magic meeting time, just in case there were any questions about that.
And just to be clear, that there aren't dates on this other than September, but for the sub-region meetings, we're assuming still the first Thursday, 2:30 to 4, location to be determined.
I'm also happy to do a poll in case that has changed for people. I'm happy to leave it. I don't know how long you all have had this meeting time, or if people are feeling like there's another time of the week that would be good. I can do a poll to the group to see if something's more popular. So I guess I would defer to you all and how you feel about this, but I see Kate's hand.
What I'm wondering is if you'd consider a hybrid. Personally, I love this because right now I'm in Rockport. I wouldn't have been able to make this meeting because I'm, you know, partially because of COVID, but it's also partially because my kitchen's being redone, so I can't live at home. But, you know, there are many times where I would have liked to have gone to the meetings, but the half-hour drive back and forth, you know, just made the schedule too tight. And and this works. It works certainly better than not going at all or not being informed at all. So.
Yeah, I would agree, Kate. I think we're definitely going to look at that as sort of Amy was saying earlier, the format of these. And I think this, you know, one of the things with the open meeting law, with the relaxation of it during the COVID crisis about allowing, you know, even public meetings to do this, you know, there's always been the concern in the past about creating barriers for people to be involved in meetings. But as our town council said, and I completely agree with, you know, this is actually increasing participation, I think, in a lot of these meetings because people now have more ability to do that because they can stay at home. So we're not making any decisions on it today, obviously, but I think it is something as a group we should look at. But and Lizzie, to circle back to your original point, yeah, I mean, I think that's a good idea about polling the group to see. Since I've been involved with Magic, you know, we've always done sort of the Thursday afternoon, which I think has worked well for some people. And we sort of put it at the end part of the day so that, you know, you could sort of transition out of your day. And if you're getting away for an early weekend, you know, it's sort of a way to wrap up the week. So I think it's worked pretty well, but we can, yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look. And if people think another day might be better, you can generally throw some ideas out there and then we can see what people come back with.
Yeah, and what I might suggest is since Magic members are appointed in, I think, July, we could, once we have the new, or, you know, continuing slate of Magic members, we could just poll whoever is the official sort of members and other regulars once we have that group and see what works best for people.
And I'm seeing a comment in the chat from Amy about possibly needing more sessions to address all of our COVID topics. So, and that's probably something we should consider in terms of like even just flexibility. Is there anything, any one of the, like, we could always do extra meetings, but with what we have on the schedule, are there ones that we could, maybe we can always look at shifting those around later, but perhaps as a group too, as we get into the work plan more, we could adjust our calendar too later on, you know, if we wanted to add a meeting or push a topic or combine two topics together to take a look at something. As with the COVID situation, I think our work plan, or excuse me, the topics for our work plan, when we're going to discuss them, can be a little bit flexible moving forward.
Yeah, I would echo that. I think we were pretty flexible this year. We shifted things around. Some things, became more important. And so we didn't end up talking, for example, about waste management, which was originally on the meeting agenda or the meeting schedule. So I think we can be flexible and add more sessions as needed. And since we do have so much funding in that category at the top for COVID, I think we'll have adequate staff support to host those additional meetings. So that shouldn't be a problem. Oh, interesting proposal to not have the summer hiatus. I think that's a very solid point. And then we got a +1 for the virtual meetings. Yeah, so Amy, do you want to say more about your comment? I think I'm not going to shout you down. So.
No, it's just that, and I'm not suggesting necessarily scheduling extra meetings. I just think that the COVID-19 response is going to grow to sort of consume all. And I would like us to be riding the wave rather than sort of behind as much as possible. So I'm just trying to think, should we be proactive around having some brainstorming, relatively informal brainstorming sessions, maybe not full official meetings during the summer rather than not at all. And that also very much depends on your staffing ability. And I don't want to put stresses on anyone's other commitments. We're not going on vacation, or not many of us are this summer.
I know.
And the other items, as you were talking about, are there some things that can be sort of moved around, or do they need to be initially addressed? I'm not making any rigid suggestions. I'm just saying I think we are maybe underestimating the amount of COVID response and recovery considerations we're going to have to be making. That's all.
I think that's a great point. I think we have staff capacity to host more in the summertime, so that's not a problem. And I think it could be optional. I don't think anyone, if they can't make a July or an August brainstorming session, I wouldn't want anyone to feel like we're going to miss the boat on having a say in what it is we work on. So I think we could find a way to offer some more sessions and maybe get the ball rolling with towns who are ready to get support from MAGIC on the COVID-19 recovery planning. And that can be sort of a rolling thing throughout the year. So if folks want to get started right away, we can get some things moving right away.
Yeah, this is Jill. And I was going to jump in. I think Amy's absolutely right, especially as we look at the timing of when things are, expected to be rolling out. We're going to have a couple of big phases that are likely to happen in July, and that will impact certainly on, some of the tourism piece, the agritourism, as people are allowed to do more, we're going to need to help our local, whether it's businesses or just our own operations, plan. And it may be really helpful to be able to do some of the sharing that we do here to help us all figure that out. So I'm strong second for Amy.
Great. Should we put in maybe just like a save the date of, the first Thursday in July is July 2nd. So that might not be a super popular day because it's the day before the observed Independence Day holiday, but we could also think about maybe July 9th and then August 6th as meeting dates.
Yeah, sure. Why don't, maybe you if you could send out a poll, Lizzie, maybe not that first Thursday in July, because it sort of is close to the holiday. And I think people are going to really try to do something if they can do anything. So, yeah. But maybe if you look at even, closer to mid-July, even like that, maybe that third, because the second is there's the other 5 Thursdays. There's 5 Thursdays in July. So maybe looking at like, even like the 16th or something, or maybe throw a couple of Thursday dates out there, and we can, use it as like a assessment or work planning, or maybe even we push it a little more towards the end of the month. I don't know, but maybe throw some dates out there and we can see what kind of feedback we get from people.
I just hate sending people polls. I don't know, maybe I need to get over that. I just feel like everyone has poll fatigue, but maybe it's fine.
keeping conscious of time here, are there any other comments on the sort of the meeting schedule or the work plan, just in general, I guess, at this point? All right. Well, hearing none or seeing no raised hands, maybe I'll take a motion to approve the Magic 2021 work plan and schedule.
So moved.
Is that Pat and Sudbury move that? Pat
Second.
Brown?
Yes.
And second from Jill in Lexington. So Lizzie and I were talking about this on the phone the other day, which anybody who's participated in a Zoom meeting where there's a vote, we should do it by roll call. So we will just go through the list here of communities alphabetically. And again, so if the representatives from that community could just voice their opinion. So again, it was the motion to approve was made by Pat Brown and Sudbury and seconded by Jill High in Lexington. So we'll start with the roll call vote with the town of Acton. I don't think we had anybody from Acton. Just wanted to confirm in case somebody came on. In Bedford?
This is Margot. I vote aye.
And did Amy want to vote? Or I guess every community has one vote. Is that right, Lizzie? Yes.
Right.
Okay, great.
Was that true? I thought every member could vote, and I have no idea what the actual truth is.
Yeah.
So it's a good question. Is it just one vote per community?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the details
Let
of
me
it.
pull up the bylaws really quickly, just so we don't get that wrong.
I think it's just one per committee. That's the
Yeah, it's
main
one
person
vote
and an
per
alternate
community.
to represent.
Okay,
Oh,
one
okay.
vote per community. Okay, so we have an aye. All right, great. So we have an aye from Bedford. So let's go to Bolton.
Eric Uriarty, aye.
And Boxborough.
Aye.
Is that, sorry, was that Rita?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then Carlisle.
Madeline Blake, aye. Is that okay with you, Kate? Madeline Blake, aye.
All right, thank you,
That's
Madeline.
fine with me. I was looking for my mute button. Sorry.
Oh, gotcha. All right, thank you, Kate.
Yeah.
Concord.
We don't have any authorized voter from
Got it.
Concord.
Thank you. And Hudson, I don't know. I'm not sure if we have a representative here. Hudson, though? Okay, Lexington.
Aye.
Is that Jill? Thank you. Sorry, I'm looking at my list over here on the other screen.
Sorry about that. Yes, that was
Okay,
Jill.
thanks.
for Lexington.
Town of Lincoln. Okay, and Littleton.
Maureen Toohill, aye.
Thanks, Maureen. Maynard.
Am I okay to vote?
Actually, technically, yeah, I think we talked about this. I think you're not supposed to vote, but if you want to give us a non-voting position, that would be helpful. We'd be happy to take it.
I say aye then. This is Katie
Thank
Young from Maynard.
Thank you, Katie. And did anybody come in later from Stowe?
Yes. Hi, this is Valerie Ortiz. I also vote aye.
Great, thanks, Valerie. And Sudbury.
Pat Brown, aye.
Great, thanks for confirming, Pat. Okay, so I think that was all ayes. And then we had a couple of communities that were not represented. Great, thanks everybody. And then looking at the agenda next, we have. I'm sorry, Lizzie, am I forgetting anything? Can we move on to the next the nominating committee piece here?
I don't think so. Thanks all. Let's
Okay, great.
mark this moment as a past work plan. It's like an accomplishment. So thank you.
Yes, thank you for acknowledging that. I should have just blitzed through it, but yes, it was.
Have to celebrate the little things, Adam. You know,
right.
We don't get as many these days.
That's right. That's very true. Thank you. So then we've got selection of the 2021 nominating committee. So typically at our June meeting every year, we form a nominating committee who then reaches out to current officers and, sort of feels out the other members to see if there's anybody's interested in holding an officer position. So Lizzie was working the back channels a little bit, and I think Jill in Lexington has sort of volunteered to be a part of the committee, the nominating committee. Is that still true, Jill?
Sure.
Okay, great. And so, but it would be nice if Jill could have somebody to bounce some ideas off of. So we're looking for one or maybe two other people who are on the call to maybe just confer with Jill on and work up a list of nominees for officers. Is there anybody out there?
And I think just to sort of add some color to that, there's not a lot in the bylaws about what the nominating committee does per se. So I know it might be sort of a confusing or vague ask, but we do want to emphasize that there's plenty of room to create process for sort of bringing that slate of officers to the September meeting. So I know Jill has a lot of good ideas for how that could happen, and Adam and I are happy to chime in and work with committee members about how they'd like to do that process, to see who's interested in being a chair, to see who still wants to stay being a co-chair, and all of those things. So all that to say, there's a lot of room for sort of building out the process in a way that feels good to members of the committee.
I think
and I'll also chime in and just say I did do it last year. It's not a huge lift, people.
And Lizzie and I think we talked and confirmed that just because you're on the nominating committee does not preclude you from nominating yourself as an officer. So don't necessarily think that signing up for the committee is going to allow you to duck out of other potential duties. This is for everyone who might participate. But I think the nominating committee also is a great way to kind of step into a little more active role to kind of see. It's, as Jill said, it's not a big lift, but and at a minimum you're able to kind of contact with some of your other Magic members sort of offline, a little more informally outside of the meeting, and build those relationships with people.
Could I do that?
Fortunately, I think it's members only. Yeah, thanks for asking, Katie. I checked the bylaws, and I think the nominating committee needs to be formal Magic members. Thank you for asking.
Oh, no problem.
See, Lizzie, you got me to do it by directly asking. I think you're going to have to do the same thing.
Right. Right. Let's see. What about Madeline?
I'm actually looking at the bylaws. I don't know if what I just said is true, because it says the chairperson shall appoint a nominating committee at the June meeting that shall prepare a slate of officers. It says the officers must be selected from current representatives. It doesn't say the nominating committee has to be. I might defer to Keith because I feel like Keith has the answers to bylaw questions.
Well, I know I was on the nominating committee last year when I was not a member. And I think we took the position that only the officers needed to be members.
Well, I'm not going to let my comment or my request going out to Madeline and Carlisle go by the wayside, so I will throw that out there to her as well. And it sounds like Katie, though, can participate on the nominating committee, right? So that would be two people, and if Madeline would like to join in, I think Jill and Katie would love to have her on board.
Madeline is not answering because I don't think she's on the line anymore.
Oh, right. She said she had to go. Thank you, Kate. Well, that's the perfect way to get somebody on a committee, right? Isn't that how it always works? Is you sign people up who aren't in attendance. That's very common practice here in Massachusetts. So maybe we'll leave it with Jill and Katie, and then we can send an email reaching out to Madeline after the meeting. How about that?
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me too. And Lizzie or Adam, will you just connect me and Katie by email?
Absolutely. And Katie, you can tap into Bill's insight. You know, he was on the nominating committee for a number of years. And so I think, you know, you can talk to him about kind of what's happened and pull a little bit from that experience as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great.
I'm sure he'll be happy to help.
Yeah, great. All right. So let's see. So I think that sort of concludes the FY 2021 work planning items. And then we are pretty close to on track. We've got about 20 minutes left here. So we just wanted to do maybe a 1 minute per community exchange with a focus on any COVID-19 related updates. And so typically in the past, I've sort of liked to mix this up a little bit, but I want to give our partnership organizations, and we are going to try to be really strict so we can get everybody out of here at 4. But if you want to just do 1 minute, so I know we've got Kelsey from Emerson, if she's still on the line, Allison from Oars, Scott from Crosstown, or even Karen, if she has any kind of an update. So I'm going to turn it out to the 4 of you, or if there's any other partnership organizations out there, if we just got 1 minute or so on COVID-related items, updates.
And it doesn't have to be COVID if you feel like you want to talk about more, but I just put COVID down as I know it's a big thing right now for everybody.
I'll just give a really quick update. The hospital is working on our reopening strategy. So I've been trying to communicate that out with some key representatives. Some of you should have received an email this week. If any of you specifically want to receive information from Emerson, if you could just let me know. So my email is kmagnuson@emersonhosp. I can put it in the chat. So I will it's not on any planned timeline of when those emails will go out, but basically we have updated information on our website. So that's the best place to go on, you know, what is open, what's available, and how we're keeping our patients safe and protected. And then from a community benefit strategy, still working strongly with Crosstown Connect on transportation and trying to stay updated with any transportation initiatives and how the hospital can support different agencies and the towns themselves on those efforts.
Great, thanks, Kelsey.
With Crosstown Connect, probably not much has changed since the last time we talked, but our commuter services are pretty much all on standby right now. If some of them are probably going to come back sooner than others. And we've really just been focusing on essential trips, meaning mostly people going shopping that don't have access to cars or can't drive, and you know, picking up stuff at the pharmacy, some medical trips when they can't be done through telehealth. And we're really just kind of, you know, we've got a lot of protocols in place on our vehicles that kind of go completely against what we used to do as far as trying to be efficient and putting as many people on vehicles as possible. We're really limiting how many people are on a vehicle, and have a lot of cleaning protocols in place, and we're just kind of watching to see where the needle moves as far as case counts, and then we're ready to you know, move back into the space of transporting more people as that becomes safe.
Great, thanks, Scott. Allison, are you still on the call? Did you want to add anything? Maybe you've left.
Allison dropped off.
Okay.
Aaron is still here.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Rep Hogan, the House is in session right now. Oops, it just kicked on again. Okay,
Proof.
sorry. The house just came to order. They're all wearing masks. She was instrumental in working on the plan for session voting so that 160 reps could participate in the democratic process in Massachusetts. And she's a monitor right there right now with 20 reps that call into her with their votes on all legislation. So it's been very interesting. Part of our staff team has been working with her on that. Our team has basically, and she has been just gathering all the information and trying to get it out to constituents. So anything that's useful from any entity out there, from MAPC and Magic, from the 495 partnership, from the local EDC meetings that we are on webinars, we are putting out newsletters and trying to be responsive to any constituents that run into issues with their unemployment or any other kind of state agency. So we've been working crazy and continue to gather and disseminate as much good information as we can find.
All right, great. Thanks, Karen. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for all your hard work.
All right, I think that's it in terms of partner organizations, unless I'm missing somebody. Okay.
Jessica, did you want to
Yeah.
partner org?
That weird Devon's place. No, it's just been helpful to kind of listen to what folks are dealing with. You know, we are a little bit unusual here in Devon's in terms of not technically being a municipality, but as you can imagine, we're dealing with a lot of similar challenges, some of which is just, you know, when do you let your public back in the building? And I know a lot of town halls are thinking about that. Right now, we are holding off at the moment, and in fact, I'm one of the few people coming to work. But you saw Peter Lowett on earlier, and the Devon's Enterprise Commission is here daily, rotating, staggering staff. I'm here several days a week, but you know, just trying to figure out that aspect and keeping employees safe. But as an agency, Mass Development is still working remotely.
Thanks. Thank you for the update.
Does anybody have a lake opening? I'm just curious. That's my current issue of the day, when to open the lake, beach.
I'm trying to think. Concord has some, but I don't think we have anybody there.
Concord owns a public beach at White Pond. So Kate Hodges at the town of Concord would be a good person. The assistant town manager would be a good person to talk to about that.
Okay, thanks, Kate.
And Lexington has the old reservoir, which has a beach, but I think we were supposed to be closed anyway this year because they're renovating the bathhouse.
Yeah.
But Melissa Petit would probably know, you know, if you wanted to just figure out what they're doing.
I think to the point made earlier, I want to give as many outdoor options that can be safe to our residents. So I think we will be opening our lake beach this month, and we have a management company that comes in and runs it, and they've got to have all the protocols in place to be approved by the Board of Health. But I'd like people to have some outdoor options. Thank you, everybody.
I know
Good to see people too.
Chelmsford opened one and then closed it because they didn't feel like people were social distancing. So just, that's an FYI.
Thank you.
All right, great. Maybe we'll go backwards through the list of communities now alphabetically. So I guess that would be us in Sudbury. I'll just provide a quick update, and then I'll see if Janie Dretler or Pat Brown have anything to add. But we are just kicked off an application period for an emergency rental assistance program. That's going to be the application periods for the next 2 weeks, and then we hope to be providing that assistance to people's rents for the month of July, and then that'll go on moving forward from there. And we are also going to be applying for, there's a grant through MAPC, and maybe Mass Development's involved with that too, but about taxi livery companies and providing communities funding to work with them to provide rides to those impacted by COVID-19. So we'll be doing that. I'm kind of going to be using it as a test pilot run for our microtransit program that we're also still trying to advance forward with that. Our town meeting is still September 15th, so hopefully things will be much more clear by that time. And then I guess I'll turn it over either to Pat or Janie if either of you have, if you're still online, if you have updates, anything else you'd like to provide from Sudbury.
I guess the only thing I would add is that the whole transportation pilot has been severely impacted by COVID, and it's just, what are we going to do now? How are we going to handle it? And it's been a challenge. I've been impressed with how people have tried to deal with it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Jane Dretler, I will just go back to what I said a little while ago, that our summer camp program has been canceled. That's for all age groups, and there may be some smaller opportunities. We haven't received word on that yet, but that's a real disappointment and obviously a challenge for working families.
All right. That's the first time I hear that, Janie. Thanks for that update, and thank you, Pat, for your comments too. Okay, Stowe. I'm not sure we had anybody there originally, or if there's anybody on the line. Town of Stowe. Okay, and then Katie from Maynard. Is there anything?
So we're in the process of coming up with an application and guide for restaurants in downtown to expand on the sidewalk. Especially in the last year, we've had a ton of new restaurants open up in downtown, and we're a little worried, with everything going on, how they're going to be affected. Besides that, we're just now starting to apply for an MVP grant for a hazard mitigation plan. Let's see, besides that, we've got a study on the Powder Mill corridor, which is starting to ramp up right now. And I think that's probably about it at this moment. I mean, there's tons of stuff going on in Maynard right now. We're very busy. We're actually busier than we were before, the COVID thing happened. So we're looking forward to eventually being able to go back into work and continue working from the office. It's a little stressful working from home.
Can imagine. Yeah. All right, great. Thanks. I know, Mara, you're on the line now for Littleton, right? Or there's others from Littleton?
I am. Littleton's trying to struggle through doing as much as possible by Zoom, including some interesting hearings tonight at the planning board. We've kicked off an emergency rental assistance program. I'll get more information about that next week, but I think applications are open for that. Park and Rec is working on a mini version of day camp this summer, keying in on providing services, more childcare like type services in very small groups. So they have their arms full trying to work through that. And they are in the process of opening the beach at Long Pond. So Park and Rec has been very active. And I just reached out to the Board of Health to see if we can work together on action for outdoor dining. The idea that I've seen in the listserv about having the Board of Health waive parking requirements, temporarily waive parking requirements, and then repurposing those areas for outdoor dining. We'll see if that goes anywhere. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Mara. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Let's see. Lincoln. Is there anybody from Lincoln that jumped on? No. Okay. Jill or Amanda in Lexington?
So just very quickly, we held the very first virtual town meeting. We started Monday night. We're 2 nights in. We hope to finish tonight. And I will say when we talked earlier about the idea of the virtual option, we had 190 of 198 people present 2 nights in a row. And the 198 includes any elected state officials, who reside in Lexington. So we never get all 198. This was without a doubt the highest turnout we've had ever, I think. So, you know, and it's worked really, really well. So that has been awesome. And then as far as the actual, you know, planning and economic development work, there's a lot of different things going on. I don't know, Sanjay, if you want to talk just really quickly. I know you've been working on some stuff with the downtown business owners.
Yeah, so we are working on the application for reopening restaurants, similar to what other towns have been doing, opening sidewalks as well as public and private parking lots as options. So we've been also working with the Board of Health to create some sort of an application which will make the entire process easier and faster for most of the businesses. In addition to that, we are also applying for the CDBG grant through MAPC. So thanks for all the support on that. So there's a public hearing if someone is interested. So as well as others, Concord and many other communities are applying for the same grant. So just FYI. So those are my topmost updates.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and I saw there's a question in the chat about the virtual town meeting. It's a very complicated process. I won't take everybody's time now, but if anybody's interested, feel free to email me. We actually have 3 prongs. There's, you know, legislation pending in the State House. We have a lawsuit filed in the courts and a home rule petition, all of which include retroactive authority. And our first order of business, the town meeting took a vote to authorize a change to our bylaw to approve it.
Thanks, Jill. Would you mind throwing your email in the chat when you have a chance for those that might be interested? That'd be great. Anything else from Lexington, or are you guys all set?
I think that's enough for the moment.
Okay. Oh, great. We appreciate the feedback. Didn't want to leave anybody out. Hudson, I think there's been nobody here, right? And same with Concord. And Kate, are you still on the line from Carlisle?
Yep. We are going to have our town meeting outside on June 20th and pass a flat budget. We wrestled that one to the ground. We couldn't decide whether to go ahead. We heard that Concord had postponed their town meeting to September. And because we share a regional high school, we thought maybe we'd do the same, but we decided the more prudent thing would be to pass a very flat budget, and with the idea that we will retweak it in September when we have more information. And the idea also was that we don't know what's going to happen between now and September. It could be worse in September again. So we decided we're going to just kind of take the bull by the horns. We had a soft opening of our town hall on June 1st, which means that people can come in now, but only one at a time and by appointment. We have a gatekeeper who is there and won't let anybody in the door if they don't have an appointment. And just to show you how modern and forward-looking we are, we're the last ones of this whole group to do the municipal vulnerability preparedness application, and we are just now getting started with it. So when we get finished, we'll let you know, and we'll be happy to cooperate with everybody else on doing regional solutions to whatever problems we have. And that's about it.
Great, thank you. Boxborough, Cindy or Rita?
Sorry. Yes, just a couple of things. We are moving forward with a town meeting scheduled for June 22nd, and it's been relocated to the hotel, and there's going to be no food or refreshments, and planning for 6 feet apart for seating. So stay tuned. We'll see how that goes, and with the anticipation that it may need to be postponed pending on what rules come from the state. So the other thing is everyone's kind of excited about an upcoming demonstration of the GIS water source resource mapping project that MAPC is doing for the town. So that's happening, and otherwise just a lot of other things going on, trying to plan and get some funding to do a feasibility study on a potential site for a much needed new public safety building. And otherwise, the town's been very good about keeping everyone informed about updates with COVID and trying to be there and provide the resources needed for town residents who are having issues because of COVID. And I think that's it.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add. Thank you, Rita.
Thanks, Cindy. Thanks, Rita. Erica and Bolton.
Hi, Adam.
Hello.
So in terms of COVID updates, we did a soft opening with our town hall also on June 1st. So we have the necessary social distancing protocols in place right now. We've put up plexiglasses along all of the department windows. Departments that have offices have basically chains along the doorway front just as a visual to keep that social distancing in place. It's everyone's wearing masks. I would say that this week went very well. It's by appointment only. So, and we sort of also have a gatekeeper. So if you don't have an appointment, you're not allowed in. Our town meeting was rescheduled for June 22nd. We're gonna continue to hold it in the high school auditorium. The moderator has decided though, because we need to keep the social distancing in place, that if we need overflow, it'll also go into the gym. And then I believe he has or will be selecting an assistant moderator if that does happen. So that's basically what we've put in place for that. I know when we were talking about the work plan and the COVID related items, I agree. I think the MVP, the idea of coordinating on the MVP projects would be a great idea. Carlisle isn't the last. We're still working on that designation as well. We just finished our draft plan and published that. So I mean, we're working on a couple of other things, but that's what I wanted to highlight. So.
Thanks, appreciate that. Okay, and then Team Bedford.
This is Margot. I'll jump in super quickly. We're in a process of reopening town hall along those same lines by appointment only, sort of phased gradual reopening of town activities, including committee work. We're waiting to see if we can run our summer adventures program, which is similar, sort of a important childcare option for Bedford residents. We're not opening our pond. It's a man-made pond, but we're not opening it this summer, so that's kind of a bummer for all of the little kids who like to be there. And we are going to have town meeting on the 11th of July, and we are going to go forward with a sort of pared down warrant. We'd already mailed our warrant to all of our residents, and so we're going to postpone a whole bunch of more kind of controversial articles and go ahead with just our budget and our bond payments and our, like the most necessary portions of our capital plan that won't hopefully generate a whole lot of controversy. And then we'll move the more controversial items or the more, items that require greater discussion and public input to our fall town meeting, which we assume will be in November. And pending all of these uncertainties, we hope to be able to sort of conclude the other half of the warrant then. And that's it for me.
Amy, do you have anything to add, or are you guys all set from Bedford?
All set, nothing to add, thanks.
Okay, great, thanks. And did anybody jump on from Acton? I'm not sure we had anybody from Acton here today. Okay. All right, so I think that's all we had planned on our agenda for today. Pretty close, 6 minutes after, but not too bad. Lizzie, was there anything else you wanted to add before we sort of signed off here?
I just wanted to thank Karen for being here today. I know you have so much going on, so thanks for making it. And then just to add on the comment Allison made about racial equity, diversity, and inclusion, if anyone is thinking about that right now with your town or even on a more personal level, and you want to talk it through with someone, please reach out to me. This is something that we've done a lot of talking about at MAPC, and we're really eager to share our learnings and possible resources with others. So please do reach out to me at any time to talk through it. So yeah, we
Great.
hope to see you all in exactly 2 weeks at legislative breakfast
Great.
at 9 a.m. And that link is again in the newsletter that went out today.
Awesome.
Thank
Right,
you.
excellent.
So
So-
thanks to
everybody.
Jill and Katie for offering to serve on our nominating committee.
Yes, appreciate that. All right, so I'll move
You
to
all.
adjourn.
Bye, everybody.
All right.
Thanks.
Sign
I'll
off.
move that we adjourn.
Second, Pat Brown.
All in favor.
All in favor, sign off. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Bye.